In this video, we're going to look at how to take the signals from these two effects tracks that we've created, and we're going to route them into a single aux track and use that aux track to control the output of those two tracks. And we can also use it for signal processing, which I'll show in just a second. So by default, these two tracks that I've created are going out to the analog 1 and 2, which are just kind of the main outs of our project and are the first two outputs of our audio interface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set them both to go out of bus 1 and 2. And a bus is just a separate kind of pathway inside of the audio application, and in this case it's a way for us to route it into another part of the application. So I'm going to route both of these into the same track called an aux track. So I'm going to create that now. By the way, aux is a shortcut for auxiliary. I'm going to press Control-Shift-N to create a new track. Now I need it to be a stereo track since I have a stereo stereo audio track in place. So to make sure that I get both or everything from that stereo track, I need a stereo and an aux track, and it doesn't matter that my mono track is mono. Now for track type, I'm going to change it to aux input and choose create. And let me order things around a bit. So both these are set to bus 1 and 2 for my outputs on my audio tracks. And for my auxiliary track, for the input, it says no input, so I need to change that and change it to, as you might have guessed, bus 1 and 2. So now both of these tracks will play through this auxiliary track. So I'm going to go ahead and set these back to 0. So they'll still be really loud, and show how I can use this auxiliary track to control their volumes. So as you might have remembered, it's going to distort. Now I'm going to drop the fader on this aux track by about 6 dB. And it's still going to distort on this auxiliary track, but notice now in my master fader it will not distort. Oops, let me. So you can see that dropping the track volumes through the aux track by 6 dB gave me a sum of about negative 3 dB on my master mix. You can still see I'm getting an indicator that the signals are overloading into this aux track, so I may want to drop it back just a bit on each of these so that I don't get distortion at that part of the signal chain. But you can see that this is another way to control the signal. Let me go ahead and hit return, get this at my playback head at the beginning and push play. And so I can still control the volumes on the individual tracks through their faders, but I can have even more control through the aux track to affect anything that's routed into it. So the other thing that aux tracks are nice for are putting a single effect on a large range of tracks. So if I, for example, had 2 or 3 actors speaking dialogue, and they're all supposed to be speaking in a place that has lots of room reflection and needs some reverberation, then what I would do is, rather than putting reverberation on each of the individual tracks and trying to get the settings set correctly for each one, or putting rendered effects, putting audio suite effects on the individual regions, what I'll do is I'll just, again, route those into an aux track, and then I will put a real-time audio suite effect, or RTOS, onto that track. So in this case, I'm going to put a little bit of, let's try some deverb, and we'll just make it really dramatic. So let me add a little bit more to it. And we'll make it a really long decay. So those are auxiliary tracks. We can do other things with them, but I think that's a good start for now. If you're really curious, ask about how you can route your audio into an auxiliary track and then route it into an audio track to record into, to give yourself a little bit more headroom.